Hello! Welcome to the Communication Kitchen Camp at World of Wisdom 2020. If you are not watching this live as part of the World of Wisdom Gathering, well, this is part of the World of Wisdom Gathering. And this is camp that I'm gifting online based on my 20 or so years of experience within the field of communication, marketing, branding, and so on. The reason for me gifting this, my name is Nils, by the way, Nils von Heijne, is that, I know a lot about these things. I hope and feel they can bring value to anyone who has a project, an initiative, an organization, a company that is trying to do good things in the world, that is trying to help create a better, new, better functioning, sustainable society, and that helps trying to get us out of the mess that we're currently in many ways. So I'm here to bring what I know to you, and hopefully you'll be able to use this to make your communication even better. And obviously, to me, that is important, because no matter how of an amazing thing you're doing and how great your project is, you tend to have to package it through communication so it can engage people and people can connect with it, and it can grow and expand and bring even more value into the world, if that is the intention of your project. That said, I'll share this as a stream. I'll basically give you a structure, a recipe based on what I know that hopefully can be helpful. My focus will be on core communication strategy and narrative, and then a little bit on how that can get translated into a story that you can use for presentations, for press releases, for videos, social media posts, whatever it is that you want to create around what you do. And the key here is to have a clear core that you always stick to, because then you become clear and easy to understand, and people know what you're about and why. And then you can get creative on top of that with a lot of marketing tactics. So I'm not going to talk about tactics. I'm not going to talk about how to do social media campaigns, or what platform to be on, or how to stage a guerrilla marketing event, or exactly how you write a press release, even though there's going to be a little bit about that. I'm going to talk about the core strategy, the core narrative. Once you have that, and that is solid, it usually the case that you can keep going forever and get really creative in how to communicate that in different ways and different platforms, etc. That said, I think we should go straight into it. I'll use some examples, and feel free to take notes, because I won't have everything written down, since I'm going to be streaming this now. And also it's going to get published and saved for people who are not part of the World of Wisdom Gathering. Feel free to reach out to me, and you can do that in many ways. Sorry, someone's calling me on the phone. Should hang up. You can reach out to me in many ways. If you're part of the World of Wisdom Gathering now, there's going to be a link in the camp to a forum thread around this camp where we can keep the conversation going, and feel free to ask questions, and I can share more content there. I'll keep an eye on that. You can also email me. My email will be at the end of the presentation, but it's nils@wishful.se. If you want to speak more about these things, I'd be happy to help out and explain whatever I'm not explaining clearly enough in this little presentation. So let's get cooking, shall we? Let's cook up some communication narratives and strategies. And I'm going to try to share my screen. Hopefully everything's going to work. And now, hopefully, you should be seeing my screen. Welcome to the Communication Kitchen. All right, let's head straight into it. What are we going to do today? What's on the menu? I'll try to keep this simple, because my firm belief is that a core narrative should be simple. Communication strategy should be very, very simple, and it should be lasting. It should be strong enough and clear enough so it lasts the test of time. You shouldn't have to update this, once a year. Hopefully never, if it's a really strong and solid one. Anyway, what's on the menu? We're going to go through what I call the basic ingredients, which are some core things to keep in mind whenever you create any type of communication to people that you want to engage for whatever reason. Some key ingredients, 3 key ingredients to bring with you at all times. Then after that, we're going to go into why statements, why we cook, or why we communicate, or why we exist as an organization or an initiative or a project. And leading with why is what I believe is the best approach. There are many approaches, but it's one really good approach. And I'll talk about why that is and how you can lead with a strong why statement. And then I will talk about what. So what we cook, or more specifically, what is it that we communicate around what we do, and how do you structure that in a simple way. And then we're going to end this little serving with how we serve up the communication. How do we put it all together? And I'm not going to use tons of various ways of doing it, but just give you like one core example, and then feel free to get creative with this little recipe. Make your own versions of it, use it in your kitchen, your organization, and have a cook along with people that you're already working with. All right, so we're going to go through this, and hopefully that will make sense. Basic ingredients. So before we do any type of communication, I want to give you 3 basic ingredients to keep in mind that I will urge you to always keep with you when you create communication, whether it's, you're creating a website, or you're writing a press release, or you're planning a video, or you're doing a social media post, or you're doing an on-stage presentation. Keep these 3 things in mind. And the basic ingredients are about the basic ways the human brain works. So the first thing I want to give you is the ingredient that I call to and from. So this goes into what motivates a human being. If you want to engage them with your communication, it's good to know what motivates a person. And since that can be tricky to find out, and you don't have the resources to ask everybody you want to communicate to, the trick is to basically try to communicate towards the various different types of motivations that exist in a human brain. So in terms of motivation, the 2 core ones are: a person is either motivated towards something, a better life, a brighter future, more fun, more creativity, whatever, or away from something. I want to avoid things. If you want to figure out where you are on this scale, you can ask yourself the question, what's a good day at work like for you? So if you're not watching this live, feel free to pause the video and answer the question, what's a good day at work like for you? When I answer this question, it tends to be around, I don't want to feel stressed. Nobody should be telling me what to do. I just want to be able to free flow and not have to plan things. Things will just happen automatically in this kind of flow state. I don't want to feel, I just want it to be easy. So that's an indication that I'm actually motivated from things. I don't like authority. I don't want to feel stressed. I don't want people hanging over my shoulder. I just want to be, and I want it to feel nice. While if I would answer like, well, a great day at work is that we laugh, we have fun, we go have lunch together, we we come up with something new, there's innovation. That's 2. I'm motivated towards something. I want to reach something. And you don't even have to know what your audience is like, because your audience most likely will be represented by both of these groups. So the trick is that whenever you communicate, you want to communicate both. What are you trying to achieve? What are we moving towards? And what are we trying to avoid? What are we trying to not have happen in your communication? I'll give you some examples about that. But that's ingredient number 1. Ingredient number 2, similar, but I call it for me and for the world. So this is also a little bit different. For certain individuals, it's more about me, what's in it for me. For others, it's more about, I want to do good in the world. How is this good for society? We don't even have to know where people are on the scale. We're probably a bit of both, all of us. So what we try to do is, when we talk about what we're doing in this project or in this campaign or whatever it is that we're doing, we want to make sure that people understand what's in it for me. Why is this relevant for me as a human being, as one individual? And also, what's the value for the world here? Why is this relevant for the world? Why is it good for the world? And in this age of the transformation economy, which I won't talk about now because we won't have time for it. I'll leave it for another session maybe, or reach out and we can have a conversation about the transformation economy. but it basically means that we human beings, to an increasing extent, we're looking for transformation in the way we consume things and engage with things. I want to be transformed. I want to grow. I want to become more of myself. These kinds of things. It's even more important to speak to both of these, what's in it for me and the world, because we see ourselves to a bigger extent as participants in this world. So I want something good for me. That's also good for the world. And that's ingredient number 2. I'll give you some examples soon. And the third and last ingredient I call see, hear, feel. So basically it's about our senses. And we tend to have a primary sense in how we process information. So it tends to be either visual, I see things, or hearing, which is, I pay attention to what I'm hearing, and also my thoughts. So it's a very rational thought-led process. Or it's about feeling. It's my emotional response to things. How does this make me feel? And we don't have to know either where our audience is at. Just know that most likely all of these 3 groups will be represented among the people we're trying to speak to. So whenever we cook up a narrative or a communication of any sorts, we want to make sure we have these 3 ingredients in it. So we want to talk about what we're trying to achieve and what we're moving away from, to and from motivation. We want to talk about what's in it for you as an individual and why is this good for the world. And we want to make sure there's visual content to reach people that have visual. We want to have fact-based, rational, what is it that I hear, what's being said, for people that have hearing as their main sense of information processing. And we want the emotional storytelling, the emotional response. We want people to feel something. And as a side note here, if you want to figure out what a person has as their primary senses, you can look at how they communicate. So visual tends to be like this. I paint pictures with my hands and I look around in the room, and that's probably a visual sense. Hearing, I'll be sitting still like this, not making a lot of movements or facial expressions because I'm just taking in information. I'm listening and I'm thinking at the same time. And feeling, probably just touch myself a lot, maybe move around a lot, and what is this, that kind of thing. Just as a side note. So these are our 3 basic ingredients that we'll try to keep in mind when we go through the rest of the steps. Okay. So now we're going to go into why and why statements. So why start with a why statement? Well, because we want to find common ground. We want to get people's interest. Before we go into who I am and what I do, it's good to start with why, because that's where we can connect to what people are already engaged by. So I'll just add these 2 straight away. So a strong why statement is something that you should lead most of your communication with, especially if you're on stage giving a presentation, if it's a video where you want people to engage with the narrative. You start with why. And it has to be something we both care about. So something that I know you already care about and that I care about too. Something we know is important. So I basically connect instantly with something deep within you, something you care about. And obviously it has to be true, otherwise the whole thing will fall. And the way to structure it is to basically state the problem. Here is the problem that we are both aware of, and connect it to a vision. And in that vision, state both what we're trying to avoid, which tends to be the problem. We're trying to solve this problem, right? And what we're trying to achieve. What are we moving towards? So you can do this very fast, very simple. So here's the problem. And our vision is obviously a world where we don't have this problem, and instead we have this. So you get both to and from. And the problem, if it's that kind of problem, that can be both individually relevant and relevant for the world at large, stated as that. So here's the problem, and this is the problem for the world, and this is the problem for you. So you got me and the world. And the vision is to avoid this and go here. So it's to and from. And then we can go into, okay, the emotional, the visual, and the fact-based aspect of this. But we'll leave that for now. And before we leave why, I have an additional side thing here. So this goes all across the board. Like if you're communicating externally, internally, it doesn't really matter. If you have this at the core of your organization, you're good to go. Like, why do we even exist? It should be one sentence, maximum two. Here's the problem. Here's the vision. It's a problem for you. It's a problem for the world. This is what we're trying to achieve. This is what we're moving away from. That's it. But there's an internal aspect of this as well. So when we run an organization, we tend to want to engage the people we work with, our team. And then the stories around why we do things are important there as well, of course. So this core story that we're just talking about sits in there too. But there are 4 stories that you can sort of take out of this story. And if you make sure those answers are clear, it gets communicated, people feel and see and hear that this is true and they agree with it within your team, you're in a good place. So these 4 stories are basically 4 questions, which is, what is the value we bring to society? What is the value we bring to our clients, customers, members, whatever our core target group is? What is the value we bring to ourselves as a team, as this group, as this organization? What's the value for this team? And what is the value we bring to you as an employee, as a single individual team member? You should have these questions figured out, and it should get not only communicated, but lived and expressed, and something you should be doing every day to make sure that you deliver on all of these 4, as opposed to more traditional storytelling that doesn't really engage people. One is the good to great story, which is like, this year was great, next year is going to be even better, let's get more members, let's increase whatever we want to grow or increase. It doesn't really engage people truly. And the other one is the disaster story, which is like, if we don't get our act together, everything's going to fall to pieces. We got to get this done. We got to do that, or you're going to lose your job, or the world will go to pieces, or whatever. So instead, the 4 value stories tend to work better. So that's a side dish, a little side note here for you doing internal communication. That said, we're going to move on from our why statement. But before we do that, I want to show you an example of a presenter who I think is actually not a great presenter, but is using a great presenting recipe. So let's have a look, and hopefully the video is going to work, and just listen to how this narrative is structured as the presentation starts.
I will start off by just talking about the reason why we're doing this, which is, as you may have read, we're reaching record CO2 levels. Global warming is becoming a serious crisis, and we need to do something about that. But just like with electric cars, where electric cars originally they didn't look good, they had low range, they didn't have good performance. They were like a golf cart, and so people had a real hard time buying electric cars. And I think something similar needs to happen to solar. We really need to make solar panels as appealing as electric cars have become.
So Elon Musk, founder of Tesla, SpaceX, etc., is not a great presenter, is my personal opinion. But when you focus on how he structures the narrative, it's following the recipe that we just went through. So he starts his entire presentation, of course, as anything else, like, okay, I'm going to start with why we're doing this. Then he states the problem at hand, and then he goes into a vision about how solar roofing needs to be more like electrical cars, in the sense that they used to be not cool enough, not powerful enough, not attractive enough. We need to make them attractive. So he's using this exact recipe for engaging people, and it's an engaging start of a presentation, at least to me. So that's an example of how this can be used in the real world outside of this little kitchen. All right, here's another taste of how this can be used in text. So these are just 3 sentences taken from the World of Wisdom website. And as we go through them, you see how the core ingredients go into these sentences. So it's short sentences, but they actually cover a lot. So the first one is, humanity is facing global challenges affecting us all. At the same time, humanity holds more potential than ever before. So it's a problem statement. We're facing global challenges. It's something we probably want to avoid, right? So motivated from affecting us all. So it's humanity, it's us all, including you. So this is relevant for you and everybody else. At the same time, humanity holds more potential than ever before. So we want to tap into that potential, right? So it's It's motivated towards something, towards potential. So in these two short sentences, we're covering both to and from and me and the world. This next sentence does similar things. We believe in co-creating a better future by coming together to heal and develop as individuals, local communities, organizations, and as a global society. So this one sentence also holds a lot of these core ingredients. So we believe in co-creating a better future. That's a vision, right? It's a clear vision. We're co-creating a better future. And how do we do that? Well, we come together to heal and develop. Well, healing is like avoiding sickness and wounds. So that's moving away from things, and developing is into something new, right? So towards something. So it's a vision statement that covers both to and from motivation. And then it continues as individuals, local communities, organizations, and global society, which means as individuals, that's you, relevant for you as one individual, and then all the way to the world, global society. So it's relevant for you and the world at large in one sentence. And then this third sentence, the world of wisdom, then it's an experiment in human development, a place for you to explore, grow, heal, connect, experiment, play, and co-create. And as you can see, it's the same kind of structure here. So experiment in human development, which is more of this for the world and towards something. And it's a place for you as an individual to explore, that's towards something, to grow towards something, to heal, that's away from something that's been hurting, to connect, to experiment, to play, to co-create. So in these three sentences, that's those core, those two first ingredients are being used constantly. And as you can see, you don't need a lot of text to cover this. Each short thing actually covers it and tends to do the job fairly well at connecting with people. All right, so that's an example of how this can be done in text. And now we're going to move on from why to what. So after we have our why statement, a problem that engages a lot of people, and a vision towards something, away from something, we go into what is it that we actually concretely do, what. And for me, the core thing here is to build it all on something called story doing. So a lot of us are familiar with storytelling, where we tell a story, and that is great, and it goes into a lot of these communication strategies. It's great, but it has a flaw that sometimes makes it not that great. That is, you can do a lot of storytelling and tell a lot of things and a lot of stories without actually truly engaging people. So I have an example. I was working at Electrolux, a huge household appliances company, and a campaign that I was actually part of many years ago was about a new vacuum cleaner or a new color of a vacuum cleaner. There hadn't been a new color in many years on this flagship vacuum cleaner, and there was this entire campaign being set up around its new amazing color, and there was a lot of content and storytelling around it, like designers talking about why this makes sense, videos of how the color was made and found, and all of these things. But it obviously didn't work out because it's not an engaging thing. Nobody cares that much about vacuum cleaners, and especially not a new color on a vacuum cleaner. So what makes sense to do instead is story doing. So this is also a simple recipe for how to make sure that what you do as your communication initiative, or what you do as the core of your project, has the potential to resonate with people and engage them. So story doing is built on three things. First, it's a story that comes from a true and clear ambition to make the world better, to make something better for people that are not just you. It could be the world at large, could be a certain group, could be a certain individual. You want to make something better for people, and it's a clear ambition. The second part is that it has to be based on a concrete action. So something that you do now to make it newsworthy and relevant now. So you're doing this as an activity now. And then the third thing is it's easy for anyone within your organization or outside of it to engage with this story, to become part of it themselves. So in the example of the blue vacuum cleaner, it fails on basically most of these. So it's not really an ambition to make anything better. It's a blue vacuum cleaner. It's not improving anyone's life in any clear way. It's based on concrete action, but it's not a strong action. I'll get into why. So it's a new color on a vacuum cleaner. It's not surprising. That's why it's not relevant enough. And I'll we'll get into that. And then the third one, it's not easy for anyone to engage with this new blue vacuum cleaner. It's not a story that I can connect with, whether I'm inside or outside of the organization. So a taste of what it can look like when it actually works. So this is a project, an initiative that's a couple of years old now by an organization called Arel's organization. I think I'm getting that right. Yeah, Arel's, it even says there. It's called Homeless Fonts. So Arel's organization is an organization for homeless people in Spain. And basically, their ambition is to make the lives of homeless people in Spain better. And they did this project called Homeless Fonts. Now, I don't know anything about that organization. I don't even know if they're valid or not, credible or not. But they structured this initiative in a very great way in terms of story doing. It's called Homeless Fonts. The ambition is to make the lives of homeless people better. The concrete action is that they take handwriting from signs written by homeless people where they ask for money and food and shelter, sitting on the street. They take that handwriting, they turn it into a font, and then they sell that font, and the proceeds goes back to the homeless people. So it's concrete action. It's also surprising, which is good, and I'll get into why. And then it's easy for anyone to engage with, because I can use these fonts as an individual for whatever needs I have to create a font, a poster, a keynote, whatever. As an organization, I can buy these fonts. I can use them on my websites and my marketing. By that, I both give money and I also help tell the story. And it's relevant for both me because I can use these fonts and the world at large because we're trying to help these homeless people. So this is an example of story doing. So clear ambition to make people's lives better, concrete action that's happening now, and a simple way for anyone to engage with this. And from that one, we're leading into how this gets served up. You've already seen some of these things, but if we do a quick summary here, you have 3 core ingredients: to and from motivation, relevant for me and the world at large, and then packaged in a way so it can get processed by visual, hearing, and feeling people. That's the core ingredients. And then we talked about leading with a why statement, starting by here's the problem, something that you already engage with, I'm engaged with, we can both agree on that this is a problem. We want to serve. It's relevant for you as an individual. It's relevant for the world. And here's a vision where we're moving towards something and away from something. And we lead with that. And then we explain what is it that we actually do through story doing. Well, we have the ambition to improve, to reach this vision, improve people's lives in one way or another. There's a concrete action. We're doing this specific thing. And it's easy for you to engage with this. That's the whole thing. And one example of how this then can be served up. So is what we're going to talk about now. Like, how do we actually serve it up? So it depends, obviously, if you're doing a website or a video or a keynote presentation. But I'm going to use just the format of a narrative. Could be used for a press release, for instance, or a blog post or something like that, or even something on a website. So from all of this, the pre-work, the ingredients, the why and the what cooking, and now we're ready to serve. We want to serve it as a 6-word headline. So why 6 words? Well, there's research that shows that the first 3 and the last 3 words of a headline is basically what people see. So anything in between is kind of unnecessary. That said, obviously you can have more words, but we should aim for around 6 words to make it as snappy and to the point as possible. If it's 7 or 8, not a biggie. But 6-word headline, followed by a 2-sentence summary of the whole thing, the whole story. And why the 6-word headline and 2-sentence summary? Well, in this day and age, we don't pay attention, and our attention span online is shrinking every year. So, like in my inbox, I think it's 1.2 seconds. An email has to stand out with the headline to make me feel is this relevant or not to look at. And if I start watching a YouTube video, the first 5 seconds will decide, am I going to watch the whole thing or not? Do I get curious or not, enough or not? So we need to package our communication into these tiny, tiny pieces that evokes curiosity. So the 2-sentence summary should be to the point. Because of something, we do something. And then after that, if this could be a press release, for instance, headline, short summary, then you go into why are we doing this, the why statement, and then what is it exactly that we do, or you can sort of tell a bit more about the story. And then when you tell that story, you want to make sure that you bring in facts. So something for people that primarily hear and think. You want numbers and figures, facts, why this is relevant. Then you want the emotional aspect of it for people with feelings. So bring personal stories into it. Allow people who are part of this project to talk about what it means for them, for their lives, how it's improving their lives, what it makes them feel, that kind of thing. And then you want visuals, images, videos, etc., to make sure that people who process visually get the story through visuals. That's the core of the story. 6-word headline, 2-sentence summary, explain why we're doing this and why you do that. Make sure there are facts, emotional, personal stories, and visuals. That's it. And a little bit more about the 6-word headline and 2-sentence summary. So what you want to do there, beyond summarizing it in a clear way, is to create what's known as a curiosity gap. So curiosity gap is exactly what it sounds like. It makes people curious. Since we don't have a lot of time to catch anybody's attention, you want to say something that is surprising or not ordinary, that will make people to say, hey, I don't agree with that, or that doesn't make any sense, or hey, that's weird, or I hadn't heard that before, tell me more. So what you want to, the simple way to do it is to find two things that usually don't fit together and put them in the same 6-word headline. And I'll go to an example. So we're going to use this homeless fonts story as an example. So this is not from them. This is just what I put together and looked at what they've done as well. So one way to package this story into this final tasty dish would be, for instance, with the headline, selling homeless people's handwriting as fonts. So it's 6 words. And you get a curiosity gap because you have homeless people and selling handwriting is not something you commonly talk about or have heard before. And homeless people and fonts, it's a surprising connection. It's not the standard thing. It's not the standard story you've heard a million times. So hopefully that should create some curiosity in your mind. You want to learn more, go deeper into the content. And then a 2-sentence summary could be something like this. To provide income for the growing homeless population, we sell their handwritten signs as fonts. So it's, once again, it's a 2-sentence summary. It's to the point. Because of something, we do something. Because of the growing homeless population, we sell their handwritten signs as fonts to provide them income. So because of something, we do something. And yeah, so that's an example of that. So very short, very to the point, and then obviously you want to fill it with more content. So you want to have facts. For instance, put in the number 40,000 homeless people in Spain. So it's facts, it's figures, it's fact-based. And then you're like, how many fonts have you sold? How much money have you raised? All of these things for one type of processing. And then emotional, personal stories. You can't really see it here, but this is the story of one of these homeless individuals, this woman, and you get to hear her story, who she is, how she feels about this, what this is bringing to her, etc. And then obviously visual. So there are videos, there are photos, there's a lot of visual content around all of this. So that's a communication initiative neatly packaged. You can do this for specific campaign initiatives. You can do this for your entire organization. You package a story like this. So I think we're going to end there. Quick summary again. And I guess what I'm urging you to try out, if this feels interesting or relevant, is to try it for your own project and your own initiatives or where you work or whatever you feel is a relevant place to try it. And hopefully what I'm hoping is you use it for something that improves the world, that leads us into a beautiful, more sustainable society and away from all of the problems that we're having today, and makes it a more beautiful place for you and humanity at large. And you hear what I'm doing here, right? I'm talking about to and from you and me in the world. So summary is that, core ingredients, to, from, me and the world, see, hear, feel. All right? And lead with a why statement. Here's the problem. Here's the vision towards something, away from something. That's a problem for you and the world. And then what is it that we do? Story doing. We have an ambition to make this better. This is the concrete action we do, and this is a simple way for you to engage with it. And then how do you serve it? Well, for instance, aim for a 6-word headline, a 2-sentence summary that includes a curiosity gap to get something surprising in that headline, in that summary that people perhaps haven't seen before. And then just fill it with facts, emotions, and visuals. And that should give you a core structure. And once you have that in place, you can just like create it, have it, hold it, and then translate it into different ways. Okay, we're doing a keynote presentation. How do we do this thing as a keynote presentation? Okay, we're doing a video for YouTube or TV. How do we structure it as a 2-minute video? We're doing a banner ad for all I know. We're hosting an event. All of these things, you can just go back to the core and then get creative around the core. All right, that's it. Thank you. And I know we all have busy days at World of Wisdom. So thank you for being part of this little camp, this little session. I won't do a Q&A here since this was more of a presentation. So go to the forum, ping me on this email address, or post something on the Telegram chat / the chat on the World of Wisdom platform if you want to reach me and keep this conversation going. That's it for me. Enjoy the rest of your day. And obviously, I gotta stop the share, and I gotta hang up the call. All right, love you guys. You're all amazing. Take care.